Hello, thank you all so much for joining and for your participation in Giving Circles and for looking out to your community and what is needed and showing up. My name is Abby Fabiaschi. I co-founded Empower Her Network with clinician Christine Norbert in 2017. I have enormous belief in human potential, especially when it's supported by community and we're showing up for each other. But the truth is, for many people, systemic barriers stand in the way of their ability to realize their innate potential. During this presentation, we will be specifically talking about what that looks like for survivors of human trafficking and how getting to a place of economic freedom is the key to ending generational exploitation and poverty cycles. So trafficking in the United States looks a million different ways, but rarely how it's portrayed in the media. Yes, some people are kidnapped and handcuffed to a bed, but the much more common version is vulnerabilities being exploited that are very familiar to all of us. Human universal needs that we all have, like the need for connection, for housing, for food to eat. And so when you think about what it means that there's a $5.9 billion human trafficking business in the United States, you start to recognize that when anyone is vulnerable, everyone is vulnerable because a business has been created. And the people who are making money will always find the supply to meet demand. And that really starts to come to full picture when you recognize that 55% of current recruiting for sex trafficking in the United States is happening on social media, and that the average age for girls to be sex trafficked is 13. A few years back, I heard a survivor talk about her experience being trafficked by her high school track coach at a local, like rural high school. And she said something that really stuck with me. She said, "We talk to our children all the time about stranger danger. We really need to talk to them about tricky people." And I don't say all of that, bringing it kind of closer to your home to scare you. Instead, to get you thinking about the conversations that you might be wanting to have with your friends and family, but also in the hopes that you come to the conclusion that I did, which is that this reality is unacceptable. Lives are at stake. And there is an incredibly resilient, inspiring survivor community that is hungry to rewrite their narrative on their terms. And they know what they need, and they know what barriers are in the way. And when philanthropically we're able to step up for them, they can bust out of the system and protect their children and their children's children and create generational wealth. So what does that look like? Okay. Poverty and exploitation cycles are often generational. And while most cities have much needed crisis services such as shelters or legal aid, many systemic barriers remain. How do you get a first apartment after living in residential care with bad credit and no savings for a security deposit, even if you have a job and can afford rent, right? How do you make time for a vocation or educational opportunity, even if you have tuition covered by financial aid, if you're having to work 2 minimum wage jobs to pay for that rent? So what ends up happening is that philanthropically, we've sort of put a ceiling on not just the survivor community, but many marginalized populations where we say, we show up for you during crisis, we show up for you for basic immediate aftercare, but once you're in a place of stability, we're sort of, your life's no longer on fire. Next. But those systemic barriers remain. And because of that, most survivors stay in services and immediate aftercare services their entire lives, or they're further exploited because they exhaust services and they don't have economic alternatives, or they experience homelessness and are trapped in a poverty spiral. So no matter which of those three routes happens, it is ineffective, inhumane, and really the most expensive way to not solve a problem. But when the paradigm shifts and philanthropy and government resources show up for what we consider graduated services or beyond crisis services, where we're truly attacking the root cause that led to that initial exploitation and those systemic barriers, that's when survivors are able to become their own solution. And they can get to a place of empowerment where they can realize the beauty of their human potential. What it requires is communities to band together. So EHN currently has local advocacy and tactical funding in the locations highlighted on that map. And the approach or the model, which is innovative within the graduated services realm, is called an empowerment plan. So we get nominations when survivors are at that critical juncture where they're about to expire services, and we know barriers are still going to be in place. And we work with them to understand what their dreams are, what their goals are, and what their challenges are to create a 12 to 18 month empowerment plan. Every plan is unique, but the goal is always the same. The goal is always to get to that place of fiscal independence, which we know is key to breaking down those generational cycles of exploitation. So I am going to pass this off now to Tika Thornton, who is an EHN advocate who does this work with the survivor community. She is also a lived experience expert, and she is a Empower Her Network program alumni. So truly can speak to what's happening today and why it matters. Thank you so much, Tika.
Thank you, Abby. So yes, I'm going to let you know how this works. So it starts off by having a consult with our one of our partners, just to see the readiness of the potential member. And sometimes the member is not really ready at that moment. And so what we usually do is we just pair them with a partner agency to prepare them for readiness. And then from there, once they become a nominee, we spend time getting to know the member, creating a rapport with them, and understanding the barriers, understanding their goals, and to discuss the resources and services that they have or haven't utilized. And sometimes we connect them with those services because we don't want to overlap services. We want them to have the full potential of our organization and our program by making sure that all other resources have been exhausted, so we can be able to get very creative on how we can be able to assist them with the other gaps that won't be provided by other organizations. And within that time, we also trying to create and structure an empowerment plan. An empowerment plan, along with a budget and with the 12 to 18 month program timing in mind, we talk about we create the program based off of one of the three or a combination of the three pillars, which is housing, education, and employment. So let's see how housing goes. Let's say Susie is a mother of two and she's living in a transitional housing program, and she is looking to move into a permanent housing situation. And so what we'll do is we will either work with that partnering agency, that housing program, so we can be able to see what funds are available for move-in fees. So if, let's say, the housing program can help out with the move-in fees, and that person, Susie, needs furniture, we can help them out with that. Or let's say Susie is living in a not so safe environment, and the school system is not that great in that environment, right? But Susie wants to make sure that she ensures a better opportunity for herself, a safer place for herself, but more important, better schooling and education for her children. And she needs help with security deposit, and even like furniture, a refrigerator or extra bed or something like that. And then let's say John. John is he is looking to advance in his career. right? And he needs some assistance with job development, right? Professional development. So he can get a promotion at a job. He can go into a different type of career. Or he needs supplies in order for him to do his job to the best of his abilities. And let's just say that, he's a welder and he needs a new helmet or a new set of gloves so he can be able um, to do his job more effectively. Or let's say it might be education. Someone might want to either uh, get a GED or an advanced degree, anywhere from an associate's, a master's, a bachelor's, and they need tutoring, supplies, a laptop. They need help with additional fees that might come up, or they might not want to go through traditional education. They might want to go into a welding class or nail tech class, or even carpentry, or um, anything that might be considered as a non-traditional type of vocational training. We can be able to assist them with that. When all financial aid has been utilized and there is some extra fees that need to be paid, we can help them out with that. Sometimes the EP can be one of the three things, or it can be a combination of the three things. And we just want to make sure that when we're structuring the plans, we are making sure that we are looking at all barriers, all challenges, so we can see how we can either assist them ourselves, or we can reach out to partner organizations or agencies to help them out with that.
Awesome. Thank you, Tika. I think a key takeaway from this presentation from Empower Her Network's perspective is the hope that the Giving Circle community can see the benefits of investing beyond the crisis and how effective it is as a philanthropic tool. So I'm a total data geek. We've been collecting data for 6 full years now on this particular program, this example of empowered kind of graduated services beyond the crisis services. And the outcomes have been incredible. So on average, survivors come into our program at just over $19,000 annual wage, which is below the poverty line. And on average, 15 months later, they graduate from the program just under $30,000, which is above the poverty line. And they're on average, they have 1 to 2 children. So when they're making that shift from initial stability to a place where they're thriving, they are in a substantially better position to protect their children. And in this way, we think of the program as also being a preventative program for at-risk youth. 95% of members who graduate from our program do so with stable housing, bringing their children along with them. And the model really, I think, speaks to the fact that our society gets in the way of survivors and other marginalized communities not being able to tap into their innate human potential and bust out of the system in a way that frees up philanthropic dollars. So Tika, I don't know if you want to say something about the more intrinsic part. This is kind of the data geeky stuff, but some of the other growth that you see happening as an advocate.
Yes. Well, it's very personal for me as well as a alumni and an advocate. I see the confidence in a lot of the members when they graduate our program, and it's more of just than just them getting stuff. It's the confidence. It's the confidence in their future. It's the confidence in their own abilities of what they're able to achieve in life, right? And it's also the confidence that they will be able to have provide a better living for their children, as well as having having financial freedom and generational wealth. And it's an honor to work alongside of, in front of, behind, shouting and cheerleading for our members, because it is amazing, an experience, for us to be advocates, to be a support system for them, because that is the fourth pillar that is a part of our program, and it goes hand in hand with each one of the housing, education, and employment pillars that we work on. So, um, this is not just a program that is about, um, assisting people, it's changing lives and allowing people to see the potential that sometimes they didn't see or they didn't think it was possible. So, thank you.
I love that, Tika. Every member who gets to work with you is so lucky. You just have a way of, you make me want to do more and show up in a bigger way. So, Tika and I would ask that you please join Empower Her Network in removing barriers that shouldn't be there in the first place so that survivors can become their own solution. Um, and that as you look quarter after quarter at different organizations, that you make sure you carve out space for organizations that are looking at graduated services and beyond the crisis, programs that have lasting generational change. Thank you so much for your time and for all you do to give back. We very much appreciate giving circles in the communities and have gotten a lot of support from them in the past. So we appreciated this opportunity to talk about ending generational cycles. Thank you.